Hold on tight, Moxie Tribe. This video contains some spicy language. If you have sensitive ears, feel free to sit this one out. But if you're okay with the occasional F-bomb, keep watching and enjoy my Monday morning teen message.
Well, the rumors are true. It's Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. I don't know about you guys, but Mondays, I want to fuck shit up. I love Mondays. I started loving Mondays when we started Moxie, and I do. I'm ready to fuck some shit up with you guys. So this weekend, I spent a lot of time thinking about monkeys, and I'll tell you why. I was listening to one of my favorite thought leaders, Dr. Laurie Santos, who I know I've mentioned to you all before. She runs one of the most popular courses at Yale University. It's the happiness course. She has a podcast called the Happiness Lab, and she also has a happiness class on Coursera that apparently just blew up over COVID when people had some time to study happiness. And that's exactly what she does. She's a scientist, and she studies the science of happiness. And she's got an amazing TED Talk, which I highly recommend, about her studies on happiness. And one particularly interesting part of this was she wanted to study happiness and money, and human behavior around happiness and money. And she wanted to do the study with monkeys. But there was some difficulty at the beginning because monkeys don't use money, according to Dr. Laurie Santos. So they had to teach these monkeys how to learn to use money, which is hysterical unto itself. But at the end of the day, they taught these monkeys to use money. They had chips that they would exchange, and they would exchange these chips for fruit. And for a long time, the monkeys were super happy. They would cash in their chips and they would get fruit. Until you can probably guess what happened. Eventually, they gave one of the monkeys bigger and better fruit for their chips. And all of a sudden, all of those monkeys that were happy with their fruit became very angry with their fruit because they saw the possibility of bigger and better fruit. So I started thinking about the fruit in my life in particular. And, we've all heard that saying that comparison is the thief of joy. As cheesy as it is, I do think it's extremely true. And so I started thinking about this fruit that I was comparing myself to, or still do, in my life. And of course, growing up, I wanted Jordache jeans when all my friends had Jordache jeans and we couldn't afford them, and all the normal kind of materialistic fruit that kids want. But the first time I really experienced that comparison being the thief of joy was when I moved to New York City and I started taking dance classes at Broadway Dance Center, which was the source of many life lessons for me. And, growing up in San Diego, I thought I was the shit as a dancer. I was a big fish in a very small pond, and I was in advanced dance classes, and I was on the dance team, and I took dance lessons with Paula Abdul, and I thought I was the bomb diggity dancer, right? Until I moved to New York City and took my first dance class at Broadway Dance Center with Broadway dancers. And not only was I not the best, I wasn't even average. I was literally the worst. I was banished to the back row. And it was shameful and it was horrible. And for the first time in my life, dancing was not a joy. It became this, I was just, overcome with envy and pity for myself. And why can't I be like them? And I'll never be with them. And all of the kind of things that happen when we start to compare ourselves to other people. Now, granted, I was comparing myself to Broadway dancers, but that didn't matter at the time. It was, the comparison was there. Fast forward almost 30 years. I can't believe it's been that long, but it has been. And I have definitely evolved as a person, and my fruit has evolved. I've replaced Jordache jeans with houses and vacations. And I've replaced being in the front row of a dance class with being on stage keynoting. And, for a while, I think if the fruit was other keynoters and I never saw other keynoters, I probably would have been happy with my fruit. I was happy for a while doing one-on-one coaching. and helping people transform their lives individually. And then all of a sudden I wanted bigger fruit. And then I started leading workshops for Moxie. And for a while I was really happy, transforming a room of people. And then eventually that led to, I want to be able to get in front of bigger audiences. I want to be able to transform an auditorium of people. And a stage, I want to be on the stage and be able to command an entire audience and transform them. And, in a way, this could be seen as ego. I mean, there's definitely part of me that loves to perform and loves the stage and loves the spotlight. But I think it's, as much as it is selfish, it is more selfless than selfless, because the desire really comes from a knowing that I have something that can help people, and a desire to really help people better their lives, and want to be able to do that for as many people as possible. And I think that when your fruit is in some way connecting to making the world a better place, it's not a bad thing to want fruit. It's not a bad thing to want other people's fruit. But I think there's got to be some rules of engagement. In the immortal words of Cardi B, I don't dance now, I make money moves. So I've learned some things in this process of not dancing about the rules of engagement for wanting people's fruit. So it doesn't take you down and, overcome your life. So I think the first rule of engagement is that you've got to celebrate small wins. Because if you are a person like me, it's very easy to get into this mindset of I'll be happy when, or I'll love myself when, and you fill in the blank. And then that when happens, and it's like that happiness and that self-love is like this slippery thing that just like slips out of your hands, and it's gone before you know it. And then all of a sudden, the iron walls of self-loathing and wanting start to close in on you until there's that next I'll be happy when. And you can spend your whole life that way. I definitely spent a lot of my life that way. If you're a driven A-type personality, it's very easy to do. So I think if you have a fruit that you want, it's really important to, along the way, celebrate those small victories and really allow yourself to celebrate them and love yourself where you are now in that process, not when you get that thing, when you get that fruit. So that's the first thing I think is super important. The second thing is motivation is bullshit. I am not a big believer in motivation. I believe in routine, and I believe in showing up. As you all know, I say it over and over, showing up is the hardest part, because it is so easy to start off motivated. I'm going to go for that fruit. It's going to happen. I'm going to change my life. And then you fail at something, you get overwhelmed by something, you get fatigued, and all of a sudden motivation is gone. But when there is routine there, and it is about momentum, just showing up every day so that you have that momentum, then motivation is not the driving factor. It is showing up. And that is like a built-in momentum that is necessary if you want to go for that fruit. Otherwise, you will stall. You will get stuck. And last but not least, self-pity and self-loathing are poison. You can get your fruit with those things, but it's a whole lot harder, and it will drag you down. Greg and I, we watched Survivor with our kids, and there was a story of a guy in Survivor this week who was in a gang, and he grew up in inner city LA. Parents were addicts, ended up in a gang, and got arrested for gang activity when he was a teenager, ended up in juvenile hall, and was introduced to a GED program, and ended up getting like the best scores on this GED, and realized for the first time in his life that he had intelligence and something to say and some sense of agency. Fast forward, he put himself through college, UC Berkeley, graduated with honors, and is now getting his PhD at Duke. There was no self-pity in this kid's story, in this guy's story. And I mean, you could look at him and say, oh my gosh, poor kid. He could look at himself. I came up from such, hard knocks. I had no role models. And yet there was this just force of nature, and there was no pity in him at all. So I do think that pity, it is possible to do these kind of things and feel sorry for ourselves, but it's a whole lot harder. So, people always talk about don't live your life with regret, because you're going to get to the pearly gates and, you're going to have lived your life with regret. I'm sure that's true. I just don't want to go to bed with regret. I mean, let alone the pearly gates, because, night after night after night of living with regret ends up, years, turns into years, which turns into decades, which turns into a life. So my kind of philosophy about wanting fruit is, it's okay to want the fruit. You should want the fruit. It's better to want that fruit than to regret never going for that fruit. But I think it's even better to want a fruit bowl. So instead of just wanting the fruit, let's put some gratitude in there for what we do have now. You've all heard me say before that our problems are other people's blessings. So if it's possible to throw some gratitude into that fruit salad, so as you're going along this process of wanting the fruit, you're still grateful for what you have now, and also a whole lot of self-love, because it's necessary. You can spend your whole life hating yourself until you get to that thing. And then put a sprinkling of routine in there. And I think you've got a pretty amazing fruit salad. And, I think that this fruit salad is not just a side dish, it's our main dish. And for if you're like me, you eat this main dish daily in this attempt to become something better, and do something with your life in the world that helps other people's lives. So on this Monday, I'm wishing you all that you can find that fruit, eat the fruit, don't feel bad about the fruit, fuck the sugar in the fruit, but fill it with a lot of gratitude and a lot of self-love along the way. And that's what I got.
So powerful. The hair on the back of my neck is standing up. and reminded me last night of watching Survivor. Fia and I are tearing up and crying at the table as we're watching. And it really was a magical story to experience with our kids and to share. And thank you, Fia.
You're welcome.
That was awesome. All right. So we can stop the recording, because I think you fucking nailed it.
Nailed it. I'm not quite